There's probably not another project like it in the world. It's the first airport runway project that local contractor JP Excavating has ever worked on, and after this, the company will be considered experts in the removal and treatment of blue clay, which is heaving and winding underneath the St. George Regional Airport runway.
Right here where we start, it's down about 15 feet, but in 200 feet it comes up to within 4 feet. So it's just very inconsistent and all over.
The problem began surfacing after water seeped underneath the runway and began swelling of the blue clay, causing a bumpy, rippling effect for aircraft landings. The contractor and city officials took the media out for a closer look at the reconstruction in Phase 2, which is now 35% complete.
JP Excavation has been a dream to work with. They have been phenomenal. They do things that I've never seen another contractor do as far as their efficiency and the amount of work that they get done. So anytime we have a concern, it's fixed that fast.
The explanation of the fix isn't easy. Working 24 hours a day, 5 days a week, and planning and maintaining on the weekends, about 100 employees are tasked with maneuvering in and out of a 17-foot deep pit where material is removed and brought back in.
They try very hard to only move dirt once, and you see these trucks carrying out, bad material. They place it, and on their way back, they pick up good fill material and bring it back. That's the kind of operation it is.
The contractor is working on replacing 5,400 feet of the 1.8-mile runway in 1,000-foot sections at a time. The total width of the excavation work is about 500 feet, which extends out into drainage areas. With 4 different active layers in place, the depth of the excavation itself creates a deep ground pressure, stopping any contraction or expansion in the future. A 5-foot layer clay plug at the bottom offers another protection. The blue clay is said to be no different than potter's clay.
It's very critical that we don't contaminate it with any kind of dirt. So when we clean off the floor, when we get down to grade, we call it the floor. We're very particular to not get it wet and to not let any other foreign material come into it before we place the clay on it.
Using modern-day GPS technology and specialized equipment for testing, the moisture content of the soils are measured throughout the entire project. The clay must be returned at an accurate 24% moisture level.
Hundreds of tests are taken each day, to the point of there's about a material test taken about every 6 minutes on this project in a 24-hour duration. There is a lot of testing that occurs to make sure that the project is built to the specifications.
And then the second we put the clay on it, because we cannot have it dry out. If it dries out and cracks, then we have to start over again. And with this kind of temperatures, we cap it. We're literally capping it within 2 hours after we put it down, and then we move on to the next section. So it's kind of being built in layers all the way through.
The third protection is the liner, which is laid down on top of the compacted layers. The seams are then heated and sealed, which provides a waterproof shield.
We heat up the seams, and the seams are heated up with a torch. The torch gets hot, and we roll the seams, and it offers it kind of melts it together, and then that seam is watertight.
Trenches and drain pipes underneath are the final protective factor to ensure that no water gets underneath the runway again in the future.
If it does get on top of the liner, it sheets it off into these drainage ditches that are out on the edge of the runway.
So it's the protection to maintain the integrity of the clay below.
The soil that is totally unusable is disposed of at the end of the airport.
By the time we're all done, there's about 1.8 million yards to go in and out, and there's about 500,000 yards of clay that's bad that we remove that goes back in. Then there's about 185,000 yards of clay, of good clay, that goes back in the bottom of it. So there's technically about 600,000 to 700,000 yards of bad material that was completely removed, processed, and put back in.
City officials are confident with the contractor's fix, and they believe, despite problems with blue clay in the past, that this method will work.
The drainage, the rock they're using, the waterproof membrane, all those things come into play in addition to what they're putting back in the pit, if you will, underneath the runway. I think all that it certainly gives me the confidence that this is going to be the answer.
The accuracy using modern-day technology appears to allow workers to operate in sync at a very fast pace.
Right, they were explaining that each one of these vehicles has a very precise GPS system in it tied to an iPad. The drivers are on specific routes, so they know exactly where they're going at all times. All of their routes are predetermined, pre-programmed to make sure that everything gets exactly where it needs to be. And then at the end of the day, that gives us the type of accuracy that we need to make sure that this project happens the right way.
While closure of the airport will be financially hard on the airlines and the airport operations, the airport manager believes this new runway won't have to be addressed again for years to come.
I mean, it's obviously hard on us, the airport, because we're losing 4 months of income. But it's something that with the additional flights that we'll have come in, the growth that we're having at the airport, we'll be able to make up that over the next year.
In the first month of operations, there have been no accidents and the project is running smoothly.
Yeah, really, you know, what we know from this contractor, JP Excavation, is safety's number one, and efficiency, I think, is right there next to it.
The runway is on schedule for completion by the end of September.
We'll finish up on time, and we'll have an airport that will be better than it was before for the next 20 to 30 years.
From the St. George Regional Airport, Melissa Anderson, Community Education News.